Paris had barely stopped echoing when stories started to bend toward legend. Maxi Lopez remembers the city like a punchline you can still taste. Corks popping, voices carrying, and in his words, a sea of champagne that didn't end in a single hotel room, but rolled like a tide through the nights that followed. He was at Barcelona for only 2 seasons, an outsider by tenure, but an insider by what he saw and felt. 4 trophies in a blur. 2 La Liga crowns and that unforgettable Champions League in 2006. The match against Arsenal finished with Giuliano Belletti's sudden bright strike, a moment replayed forever on screens. But Lopez's memory holds the quieter, wilder things surrounding it. He remembers how the immediate eruption in Paris became not a single celebration, but a chain reaction that carried through other cities. How teammates who had fought on the pitch were laughing and gasping and drenched in more than just victory. It wasn't just about the goal, it was about what the goal unlocked. A release, a permission to let go, to be boys again beneath adult armour. Inside the dressing room, Lopez says the mood was a strange mix. Relief, braided with disbelief. He can still hear the laughter, the language slipping into jokes and songs, the fabric of shirts against each other as players clung to a moment they had only dared to believe. Those are the snapshots that don't make highlight reels. The slap on the back that turned into a group hug, the players wandering the corridors with bottles raised high, the way the noise outside felt like an applause meant only for them. He tells of barbecues, backyard afternoons with 3 childhood friends and a young Lionel Messi. Scenes that read like family life more than professional sport. Messi, who had been a teenager then, was in many ways becoming that doubling force. On the pitch, he was a near-mythical talent. Off it, he was a boy who ate, joked, and played cards with teammates. Lopez's portrait of him is intimate, the kind of small recollections that turn a global icon into someone you could have shared a sausage with over an open flame. There is a cost to those bright memories, Lopez notes lightly. Messi missed the Paris final because of an injury from a match with Chelsea. And that absence, the young star who had become the club's quiet engine, added an odd contour to the night. It made the victory feel collective in a different way. Less the triumph of a single figure and more the work of a squad stitched together by talent, risk, and yes, friendship. Lopez's respect runs in more directions. He remembers Neymar not as a headline, but as a teenager at Santos who was crazy in the best possible sense. Lopez observed that fearlessness early, the improvisations, the audacity, the joy that would later settle into superstardom. These recollections matter because they map the human architecture behind a historic night. Belletti's strike will forever be the image that defines that final. And rightly so. It arrived with the drama of a storybook ending. But the scaffolding beneath it was made of evenings, conversations, shared meals, and the stubborn camaraderie of people who had chased a dream together. For Lopez, the trophies are concrete proofs. For the rest of us, his anecdotes are the threads that make a garment of memory feel wearable again. They remind us that a club's great night is equal parts skill and looseness, strategy and spontaneous joy. When you listen to a player like Maxi Lopez talk, you hear more than the scoreline. You hear how a flood of champagne could wash over men who had trained in rain and tension and turn them momentarily into a band of ridiculous, elated friends. You hear how small rituals, a barbecue, a joke, a late-night cigarette forgotten under a stadium sky, hardened into the culture that would define Barcelona for years. And you hear why those nights, however much they are replayed as highlights, still hold private, bright corners that only those who were there can light up. That is the legacy Lopez offers. Not just a trophy in a cabinet, but the warmth of human memory, still fizzing like a bottle uncorked in Paris nearly 2 decades on.